What's up, gang? Hope everybody's doing well. Hope you enjoyed part 1 with Chris Blanchard on episode 57. This is part 2 coming at you now. Enjoy it. This conversation doesn't lack anything, just like the first one didn't. Remember, Amazon Smile, Professional Firefighters of North Carolina Charitable Fund. Share these episodes as they come out. Your friends, I'm sure, will enjoy them. We appreciate all y'all's support. Thank you so much. Here's Chris Blanchard, part 2.
Everything you do is throttled somehow. You know, we talked about this one time before, like driving. You know, you could probably safely drive 120 miles an hour down the highway, but everybody can't. So they throttle it down. You know, anything.
Shotgun effect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Give me like a minute here, but I'm going to paint a picture for you.
Please do.
Politicians in the world that we live in, it started out that somebody would want to serve, that word we were talking about earlier, serve their area or their community, want to be their voice for their people, and it was honorable. And it was this beautiful thing. They're going to go travel on horseback to Washington and represent, or New York. It depends on how long you go back in history. But now it's become this career path, and there's decisions that are getting made that affect people like us and just your average Joe riding down the road, but they're making decisions based on a financial gain next week, or if I do this and I'll get a kickback from here. But there's so much corruption in our political world that they're making these lanes just to protect interested parties in other places. If we could figure out, you know that chemical they put in swimming pools?
Chlorine?
No, so if a kid pees, it turns blue all around them and embarrasses
Is that
them.
real?
Yeah.
Even if it's not, let's pretend that it's real.
Okay.
If we could figure out like a aerosol to put around politicians, and if you're corrupt, it turns the air around you. You know,
Like
green.
a bullshit meter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think all of our bullshit meters go off a lot when we see these politicians. But, man, if we could get rid of the corruption, make it like a 2-term limit, or just like the president's house, 2 terms and you're out. But these, like your Nancy Pelosi's and your Schumers and I named a couple of Democrats there, but they're on both sides. I'm not saying one side's worse than the other. But if we, as a group, like we're voting, we the people, right? If we could figure out a way to get our country back from the corruption. Like, I'm not saying all these people are bad people, but they're making decisions based on what's going to put money in my wallet, not what's going to be good for Chris Blanchard.
Right.
It's the system has gotten a little messed up. We need people to purposely vote. Like, don't just vote based on what's this going to affect my wallet or what is cool, but vote on what our country needs down the line. Like, what's that Confucius saying? Like, if you're planning for a year, plant rice. If you're planning for a decade, plant a tree. If you're planning for 100 years, educate your children. You ever seen that one?
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Oh, hell,
Yeah.
you say it's pretty cool, though.
Yeah, it's like, think long range. Quit with this next week business or what's gonna pad my wallet today or tomorrow, and like think about your children or your career path, your retirement years. Think ahead and like vote on purpose or run for office.
Yeah, that's a that's a hard thing. It makes sense, but when you're talking about, let's just take the president, for example. When you're talking about 4 years, 8 years at max, right?
Right.
So you're talking about 8 years. It's hard to plan for 100 years when in 100 years you're going to see how many different faces take that position. If all of their motives followed the same trail,
It would work.
It'd be easy. But the fact is you know, you have opposing sides, you know, competing for the same position, and they have to campaign based off of hopefully positively what they can accomplish in their term. So it's hard to not be trendy.
Or what their side wants.
It's hard to not be trendy.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The trend is, this is all hypothetical, but the trend would be, cell phones for everybody on the planet. That's the hot topic right now. It's the topic of controversy. So the next politician is going to talk about how he can fix that. Not the fact that in 100 years we're not going to need cell phones because it's all going to be in our brain. Thank you, Elon. But
thanks, Elon.
Free plug. And but that would be long term. So that's difficult. I think your theory works best, and it's where we can all affect it, is our local politicians.
Yes.
I think that is because they're reelected and they don't have term limits. But you can affect a lot of really close things around you by talking about your local politicians. If you can get somebody in there that has motives that can hopefully, maybe they don't run on the same path as yours, but at least maybe they intersect in some places, that's a solid choice. But you can continue to vote for that person for, like Sheriff Mann. He can be sheriff until he wants to be done with it.
That's why I like him so much, is his plans, like that whole, like this term, that term.
Yep.
His plans are past his term time frame.
He's planning for the next person in line for him.
That, and he's planning for regardless of election cycles or regardless of how long I'm going to be here, what's good for the community, what's good for the people that work here. Like he sees those honorable goals and he takes those steps. That's the type of politicians we need to be finding to push to the front.
I agree. It seems like a simple concept, and it follows what we do. We can tie this back to the fire service super easy, but our jobs as they're lined out. So a firefighter gets hired new. So he is learning a craft. He's learning from who? His driver, mostly, right? So his driver is helping him lay the foundation in order for him to succeed and be a driver one day. And then the driver follows suit with the captain and so on. The chain goes down. And the idea, and hopefully what is being planned is how to be successful, at the next position. So the politicians are the people we choose to be the leaders of our country or local, however you want to see it. Hopefully the idea or the motives that they would have is to, they're if the end goal is this one giant, beautiful city, and the politicians come in there and they all play a part in the construction of this city, and the end goal being this beautiful city that all the citizens have chipped in on. We want 15 swimming pools, 15 high-rises, whatever. The idea that one person can come in there and do that is rather silly. So why not build? And then, if you're not the person that gets it done, you played a vital part. Without one, you can't have the other. So build on that. Give something for the next person to continue on. Legacy, if you will, I guess. Is an easy way to put that. Does that make sense? Is that dumb? Is that dumb?
It does. So often, though, someone comes in and they start something, and then the next person that comes in doesn't agree with it, and then it gets ixnayed, and then they start something, and then you don't grow. I mean, nothing changes.
Our presidential politics are just like that. What do most of our presidents do the first 5 to 7 days they're in office?
Shut down the
executive orders of the previous president. Yeah, it's. What are we doing? Chief Griffin, not Griffin. Chief Freeman. He had his outlook on the chief's position makes sense for politicians as well. Because let's be real, most chiefs are politicians.
That's right. They have to be.
Have to be. That's right. I don't want to do what they have to do.
Absolutely not.
But he did very well. To me, his biggest thing that resonated with me was the fact that he sets himself up to be in a department for 8 to 10 years. He's laying a foundation to get things accomplished in the next 8 to 10 years to put them on the path to where the person who gets him, who replaces him, has a foundation.
Can take the ball and
that's
keep
right. Can continue to be progressive. And his theory was, after 8 to 10 years, if you haven't moved on, you kind of slip into this place of complacency, and you stop your drive stops being look at what I'm doing, and it turns into look at what I've done, which is brakes and not progressive anymore.
That's right.
So you stop the growth when you start looking at the things you've done in the past, and we're not worrying about what we're doing. You have to be progressive all the time. And Jonah Smith mentioned that in our first new conference interview. He said it happens to every fireman at about that 10-year mark. He said they come to a fork in a road where they can choose to put their nose down and go into being instructor or somehow furthering the fire service, or they turn into he had an acronym for it, or a 3-letter acronym for it, but basically, or you can turn into the guy who sits in the recliner and bitches. But that's the two paths. There's no in between.
Right.
You do one or the other. And it's almost every firefighter is about that 10-year mark where you've had enough experience where you're like, yeah, I know a lot.
I don't need more.
That's right. I don't need much more. I've done all this, and you're relying on what you've done in the past and not what you can be progressing to. Or you take the path and you keep right on going. You further your education. You further your knowledge. You piggyback off all these superstars, and you surround yourself with people who are continuing on. And
well, you can't do that anymore because things change too much.
In which aspect?
And you can't reach that 10-year mark and say that you're at a comfortable spot, and you just stop and you sit back and relax and say, well, I've done it. It's done. We fixed a problem. But there's a new problem tomorrow. You know, things are progressing so much faster than they were progressing 25 years ago. So if you reach that 10-year mark and you feel that way, it's time for somebody else to come in. If you reach that 10-year mark and you are just like, I haven't gotten enough information, I need to keep on, then you keep on. But we're progressing so much faster in every service, the fire service, police officers, in anything, almost any job there is out there is progressing so much faster than ever before with us. New technologies in vehicles. That stuff is going to change so much more in the next 10 years, and then the next 10 years, and then the next 10 years, where 50 years ago, it took 50 years to get to a point. Now, they're getting to that same point in a year, and then they're wanting to do more, and they're wanting to do more. There's not a comfort spot. It's this is better. I can make more money doing this. And so on our side, with vehicle technology and building construction and things like that, it's never going to stop. It'll never be at a spot to where they're like, okay, this is the perfect thing. Not just because there's not a possibility of there being the perfect thing, but somebody else out there wants to monopolize off of making the next perfect thing. So you're going to see that happen on and on and on and on and on. And so you can't ever get to that point to where your job is at a point where it's done, or it's done all I can do, or at the point where you can be relaxed about it. You're going to have to keep going and keep going and keep going and keep learning and keep building and keep doing that. And so, yeah, I mean, it's that won't ever happen. Your 10-year term, or you call it a term, you call it whatever you want to, but your 10-year spot to where you get to the point, if you're not willing to keep on at what times then it's time for the next man to pick up where you left off, and which doesn't happen in big politics, but local politics, it probably happens a little bit easier. But yeah, you're going to have to do that, or you're just going to walk backwards.
I got a pretty good example of your car technology thing.
Yeah,
matched up with your fork in the road. In 2017, I was at Wrightsboro on the rescue. And I came on shift, and the night before or day before, they had a head-on collision, and it was an Acura sedan against like a tandem axle dump truck. Horrific crash. Guy probably should have been DOA, but he wasn't. So they had an extended extrication, long time, got the guy out, everything went fine, except the time frame was longer than everybody involved thought it should have been. So they were like, man, are these tools... something going on with the tool or whatever. So did a little homework, went to the Google.
Yeah.
And that Acura was, they had come up with this, how there's like ultra high strength steel, super high strength steel.
Oh, yeah.
So they were sandwiching some nice metals in spots. You know, the B pillar where it comes up to the roof line, and then the A pillar. They
All your connection points, basically.
Yeah, that's right. So this was the first one that these guys had seen and these tools had seen that it did its job. It protected the occupant, but now the tools were taking longer to cut through. If you're sitting on the recliner and not paying attention,
that stuff's going to bypass you.
It'll pass you right by. But if you're in and you're staying on top of it, then you're in with it. And you know, like, oh, this is a new whatever car. It's going to be harder to cut. You know, and I'm sure tools will catch up with it. But the point being, you got to keep your head in the game.
But you have to be proactive on everything.
Mm-hmm.
Everything. Or it will pass you by that fast.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you decide tomorrow to buy a new car for Holly, well, in your mind, you think, oh, this car's going to last 5 years or 10 years or whatever on how long you keep a car. So I'm pretty good for then. But you better be proactive on planning for what happens in that 10-year period down the road. People don't do that. They don't do it with any mundane things like a car. To most people, a car is just a necessity, and that's what you have to have. But you have to be proactive with that. Mm-hmm. You have to be proactive with everything you do because, one, things are changing. And if you stop and get complacent for a short amount of time, then it passes and it's twice as hard to catch up.
Mm-hmm.
And I see that in the fire service with lots of departments to where, well, one, money holds people back from moving on with the times. But two, it's complacency. It's this works for us. Mm-hmm. Well, it works for you right now, but don't buy what you need now. Buy what you need 10 years from now. You know, if you're going to build a fire station, don't build it for what you have now. Build it for what you're going to have in 20 years, or you're going to be adding on. Things are changing so rapidly. Like we talked about today, the growth in New Hanover County is exploding faster than any place I've seen in a long time. And the infrastructure from the fire service to the police department, to EMS, to everything down the road, better expand right now before they're behind the 8 ball.
Mm-hmm.
It's really crazy how fast things are moving, you know, and we're watching it pass us by every day.
Yeah,
you know, you don't realize it, but we are watching it pass us by. Mm-hmm. You might see Elon Musk have an ad about something that's new and you just don't think much about it, but tomorrow it'll be in a car and you don't have any idea because you just bypassed the article or the whatever, and now you're faced with fixing it or cutting it or whatever, you know, the risk behind it.
Yeah, like I know how to roll a dash on a Tesla, but I can tell you if you don't know how to roll one and you try, you're just going to chip off pieces.
Yeah, not successful.
There's a method.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I have two things.
Hit me.
Two things. You can answer them together. I'm going to pose them as two separate things. One, the constantly changing things, everything in society. What would you believe if that stopped? I believe that innovation is what our nation was built on.
So you're asking, what if innovation just stopped? What if at one point in time the world said we are satisfied with what we have now?
What do you think would happen? What would be the consequence of that?
Be a downfall. Be a huge downfall. Look at the money that's been spent to research whatever. So if you're not building bigger and better, you're putting half the workforce out of a job, right? And technology doesn't change, so nothing else can expand and get bigger and get better. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'll tell you a little quick story type thing, but not really that long. So I live in a very small town, as do you.
Yes.
I tell my wife often that I really wish that there was a way that we could go back to when my grandparents were alive and they came home from work and sat on their porch and talked to each other. Because when we get off of work and we cook supper and we make sure our kids have everything that they need, or we go to ball games and we're getting into bed at 10 o'clock. What we're doing now, 5 or 6 days a week, is waking up, going to work, feeding children, going to bed, waking up, and that's what we're doing. And that's happening because things are progressing and things are changing. And if it stopped, while it might seem like a good thing because you would go home and you would be like, man, we don't have anything to do. We can watch TV or we can hang out together. Yeah, that may seem fine, but it won't last long. If that changes, your job dynamic will change. And guess what? They probably won't need how many people are in this county now to do your job. So, yeah, that's my answer to that.
I hate to contradict anything you've just said.
Don't worry about
That's
it.
the beauty of it, man.
That's right.
I think we desperately need a stop. Like, back up to the time when they could sit on the front porch. All these advancements, the things that we are improving to make more efficient, like machinery that can make T-shirts. Now they can make 100 T-shirts in an hour, and it used to take an hour to make a T-shirt.
10.
Yeah. So, as like a race of people, our technology has increased, but with the technology increase has come, oddly, all these needs of us. So we've got machines that can make things way faster and more efficiently. We've got cars that travel faster, airplanes that take us places faster. We've got everything that, while we were inventing them, we were talking about how much this would give you more time at your destination. Where's the time? So on the path we're on, we're creating things that are more efficient and faster that are supposed to give us more free time, and we have less free time as we're on that same path. So maybe it wouldn't be such a bad idea to pump the brakes and slow up and decide, do we need to go faster? I get what you're saying. Like if we take away the jobs from the innovators, like 100 years ago, they were going to shut down the patent office because they were like, all right, everything's been invented.
Right.
Shut it down. I don't think we need to shut down the patent office. And innovation will always be this creative thing. Like necessity is the mother of all creations, right? So I want our human race to reap the rewards of all this innovation, and we're not rewarding anybody yet. It's like the machines can work faster, so we got to make the humans work faster. And honestly, it's out of balance. I don't see the balance. Like, if everything works better, why aren't people able to sit on the couch or on the front porch and watch the sunset? What am I missing?
Think about this, though. So I agree with you. I am the fan of being able to do that. I just have a fear of how that would work. But you said, what if it stopped? So are we talking about an abrupt stop? Are we talking about a time frame stop? But the problem that I see is the way that the generation that we're living in is built. So let's just say it's an abrupt stop. They say, all right, this is what we're going to do. We're going to change the way things are. What we have now is what we're going to keep and we're going to make work, okay? Mm-hmm. So you live in that society for 5 years, and you're sitting on the porch with your kids or your significant other or your parents or whoever, and you're like, you know what, I'm just not satisfied. What if I did this, it would make this little thing better? Well, then you're starting right back into the same thing that we're in now. So if we lived 50 years ago, what if it stopped? It would work. It would be flawlessly work. But I'm not built that way. As much as I want that to happen, I'm not built that way. My brain doesn't stop thinking about what can I do better.
I'm with you.
And yours doesn't.
Yeah.
And I know yours doesn't. And I know yours doesn't. So if we lived in a different society and a different time frame, I 100% agree with you. We need to slow down. I think we need to slow down now. I just don't think it's a possibility. I don't think there's a way to slow down.
All right, let's agree that slowing down is not even an option, barring like an asteroid hitting the planet and upsetting everything.
Right.
How can we bring the balance? What method? Like technology is getting better. We'll say better, and machines are better, more efficient. There's a big argument over like oil-based or carbon-based energy versus this electric car stuff. Right now we're on like this really weird crash course toward like throw away all your gas engines. We got enough electric cars to go around, but we don't. It's a separate subject. And my point is, how can we find, like in your particular household or in my household, how can we find the balance where we don't just work, and then die? You know what I mean? Like,
so when I was younger, everything I did was decided by my parents. You know, hey, Dad, I want to play baseball. Nope, not going to happen this year. You got to do this. You got to work. Okay? So, or we don't have time to get you here or there. And me, as a 10-year-old kid, was like, okay, understand. So if we could go back to that and lessen the time that we're out doing, I don't take anything away from our kids doing stuff, don't get me wrong, but if we could go back to that, that would be the first thing to start slowing some things down. The problem is it doesn't work like that in our generation anymore. You know, nobody looks at their kid and says, no, you can't play baseball because we don't have time to do that, because you don't want to hurt your kids' feelings because their friends' parents are allowing them to do it. My parents didn't give a rat's ass what my friends' parents liked or didn't like.
yeah.
You know, they didn't. I want to think that I don't give a shit what my kids' friends' parents think. But in reality, we do. I do. You know, I'm scared to hurt my kids' feelings, and that's a crappy thing. You should not feel that way, but you do. And again, I'm going to go right back to what I said. The society and the times that we live in just don't support it happening. I wish it would happen, but I just don't see it. I don't see it supporting it at this point. Both of you, all three of us, but I'm talking both of you want to better yourself all the time. If you didn't want to better yourself, you wouldn't be doing more than just working at the fire department. Neither would you. So, do you feel like either one of you have a point to where you're going to be comfortable? Do you know what that point is? Do you know in your brain, do you think, if I reach this point, I'm going to be comfortable? You ever thought about it?
Yes.
Do you know where that point is?
I do. When Keenan and Cohen are on a path to success. So I don't need to see them through. Like, imagine hitting a golf ball, but instead of hitting it, you just carry it all the way to the hole and put it in. There's no honor in that, right? Like,
right.
I'm going to hit the ball and watch it go. If I see them on the right path, then that will give me like this fulfillment of my purpose has been served, and then I can rest. That's how I see this whole walk.
And I get that. But what I'm getting at is that's a comfort in your accomplishment for your children. You
From my
personally, like,
I got it.
Is there a point there to where you're like, you know what? I don't have any problem sitting home and eating bologna sandwiches every night.
Okay, I got that answer too.
I'm good with that.
3-car garage, black and white checkered floor. The walls are nice and clean. GTO's on one side, my daily driver's somewhere in there, and then a project car.
Okay.
Yep. And I can get on my Amazon Smile account and order anything I want, and I don't have to worry about like, I better wait till payday. That's, to me, that's where I'm trying to get to.
Okay.
Yep.
So, with that being said, in all honesty, how realistic is that?
It's pretty realistic.
Like, there will be a point, you feel like you can get to the point to where you can have your dream stuff set out in front of you and not have to worry about money ever at all. And that's good. I just, like, for myself, I feel the way you do, but I'm like, how do you know what that is?
I got the formula. You go first.
I know what you're trying to say, and I know what you're trying to ask. I'm sitting here playing mediator. It's great. It's actually really fun. It's really fun. It's really fun.
Yeah.
This is fun. He's talking about Chris is posing the question, a level of self-growth. Basically, we're trying to put it in materialistic form, where you're talking about cars, garage, kids, stuff like that. I think, or what I'm gathering, is he's asking a little bit more deeper with that. The root of his question is do you believe there's a point inside of Steve Hunt that he can honestly sit in the rocking chair on his front porch and say, I'm happy if nothing else happens. Nothing else happens to me. I'm not going to try to do this. I'm not going to try to do that. Whether it's personal, educational, monetary, anything, where you're just like, if tomorrow comes, cool. If it doesn't, cool. Whatever. I have reached this point and I am done.
Maybe I'm nuts, but I visualize it and I see it. Like, that's my goal, is to coffee on the front porch in the morning, play with my projects, do whatever.
And I see it.
Yeah.
But at the same time I see it, and I reflect back and I look on myself, and then I look at you as us being friends, and I see the progress that you're making on your house. And so you're building on that because you have an end goal. You know what you want to see, and it's how you want it. I can't honestly say for myself that if I was to go right now and I was to build a brand new house, that it would be substantially exactly what I would want for the rest of my life.
Right.
Only because everything on the outside plays a part to that. If you lived on an island by yourself in the house that you built with your garage and those cars, I could see you sitting on the porch every day and drinking that cup of coffee and being the happiest mother effer there's ever been.
Yeah.
But we have too much around us that impose things on us. It doesn't even have to be people. You could be watching TV and see an advertisement or something, and you'll be like, shit, dude.
I need one of those.
I need one. And because we're built that way.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I'm really barking and trying to get at is I don't think it's built in anybody to be completely satisfied. I just don't. I know what you're saying. I agree with you 100%. I feel like I aspire to feel like you feel. I just can't in my brain, knowing how things work and how technology changes and how you got a 55-inch TV and you go to somebody's house and they got an 80 and you go home and you're like, damn, I can't see my TV. And so you go, so there'll never be a stop to that unless you are a hermit. So how can that happen?
Again, I think you're framing it in these materialistic things, and I know Steve well enough to call him on his bullshit, and as much as I hope that you have the belief that you have it planned out, I know you better, and what you're describing on the materialistic basis maybe hopefully is 100% possible for you. Hopefully.
Absolutely.
I don't see why it wouldn't be. But that brain in between them ears is not going to settle for that. You're going to take your GTO, for example. I'll put it in materialistic terms. The exhaust could always be better. The oil in it could be different.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I don't think, I know you too well to know that your brain is going to sit and be like, there's nothing going on here.
There is a project in the middle of the garage. I don't know if you remember that part.
But just your brain. You know what I mean? I know how your brain is. When you text me and you're like, remind me to tell you about the bird flying across Market Street. That's Steve's brain.
Yeah.
You're never going to get rid of that.
And there are people alive today who are that way.
They suck.
But that's the best way to put it.
What are they contributing then?
Yeah, that's
Maybe
the best
they
way
already
to put
contributed.
That's not real. That's not real.
All right, check this out. If you wanted a horse to run on a treadmill, you would dangle something in front of it, right? Like a donut or whatever. The horse is like, I don't know.
A carrot, man.
As long as it was a Brits donut, free plug.
Maybe the vision that I'm describing to you guys is my donut hanging in front of me. Like, that's why I'm running so hard, is to get to that. And then if I turn around and that's been bait the whole time, what did I do? I just ran on a treadmill? Like, you got to find your goal and identify it. And if you don't
I don't
ever,
disagree.
Yeah.
Nope, I don't
No,
disagree
I don't
with that
either.
one bit.
But all right, let's just say that you have sat down with a pizza and you've eaten 3 pieces and you're like, man, this pizza's pretty good. I'm getting a little full, but your brain isn't satisfied. You're going to eat 3 more pieces. So I don't see many people today's life stopping at 3 pieces of pizza. We don't do that. Or you're not built that way. I want to be built that way.
Mm-hmm.
I aspire to be exactly like what you want. I tell Kim all the time that, I feel like my comfort zone would be to build this little house that is big enough for us at the beach, have a little small garage I can keep my tools and stuff in, and retire there and us just hang out together. But realistically, I know that will never satisfy me. Not because I don't feel like it's enough and that the outside world is telling me you need a bigger house. No. It won't satisfy me because I am constantly trying to better everything that I do, just as you are, and just as you are, and just as probably everybody that you much know. So, yes, that's the point I'm trying to make is you could be the exception to the rule. I do agree with you. I know how his brain works too, but you could be the exception to the rule.
I don't believe it. You have you have 2 kids, for example. So you reach your personal goal. Your kids are 30 and 40 by now. That puts you 180. So you're already up. So that already puts you like at Buddhist level here. So at monk level in age years. So you're way up here. But then they call you and say, Daddy, I got a water line busted. And they've married a tech guru. Nothing wrong with that, but he's just not a hands-on guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he can't change the tire.
He's not. It's nothing wrong with that. We need those people, but he's not you. Now you got a problem to fix, right?
yeah.
That shit's never gonna stop ever.
Yeah.
Never gonna stop ever. There'll always be something. One day you'll obtain your goal. Your goal is here, listeners. I'm using my whiskey glass for an example. You'll reach your goal, and then you'll go here, and then there'll be another goal, and you'll just keep going. That's Steve Hunt. That's what makes you great. That's what makes Chris great. I mean, that's what makes all influential people great. Is it just? I don't. Are you trying to argue with me with your face?
No, let's pretend
Okay,
that you're right.
I like that.
Yeah.
So, you know what? I'll even give you a 50-50 shot that maybe you're right. If that's true, purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So, tell me why it means anything if you never achieve the goal that the donut that you're hanging in front of you.
You remember the analogy when we were talking about politicians in the big city, and every leader, is building a foundation for the next the legacy that I was speaking of. Is you may not ever get to the final donut, but maybe your kids do. Maybe you know what I'm saying. That would be the hope I think of all of us fathers, is for our kids to ever surpass anything that we could ever do.
Absolutely.
I think what you describe is probably accurate, but I don't think it should be. I think we got to set goals and get to that goal, and then let somebody else carry that torch and do whatever. Go fix the water line that's busted for your daughter. But I feel like maybe that's what I'm trying to get at with the whole the slow down. Like, put in your time. Like you were saying, when you're a kid, you got to listen to your parents. So 0 to 20, you're an adolescent, you're a young adult, whatever. But 0 to 20, those are somebody else's years. You were being taught, you learned a lot, but they're somebody else's. Somebody else was in control. And then 20 to 40, 2 decades, you're doing it. Like, you're making your decisions, mistakes. You're making your mistakes. And then if you've eaten pretty good foods, maybe you can stretch that to 20 to 50, right? After that 50 mark, after your prime, if you haven't made some decisions or had your eye on the ball and made that goal, set up some things, then you're getting ready to have a little trouble in that 50 to 70, 50 to 80. So the goal that I have in my mind is, it's not just like a warm thought. It's like the purpose of a plan, and it is a plan. And if I'm not going to get there, it kind of makes all the rest of it just seem like, all right, maybe I helped a few people along the way. It's pretty honorable to help a few people along the way. I'm not discounting that, but I feel like if I don't commit to getting to that goal, like the garage and the stuff, the things that I can see that drive my motives, then I think my 20 to 50 isn't nearly as efficient, because if I actually believe that the goal doesn't exist and I'm just working towards something, I'm not going to put in the energy. Like my 25, my 30, my 35, the work I've done on the house, I'm kicking it like 16-hour days. If I didn't think that there was the mission at the end, goal accomplished, I probably wouldn't work as hard. So I get what you mean, and I probably will always be searching, but it has to be at least an option to kick it out of gear, throw back a nicely done whiskey. You know what I mean?
And everybody aspires for that point in their life where, let's face it, people say retirement. That's the time. Okay, You retire. Okay, and your retirement is supposed to afford you this: you don't have to work anymore, and hopefully, if you retire the right way, you can live the rest of your life like you lived the first 65 years of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't ever see that happening for anybody else from today forward, because that's based off of today. All of that changes in 20 years from now. So what happens with this? You have a retirement. Your retirement is a set number of dollars that you have in this account that they spread over what they consider to be the last years of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So your retirement is based off of if you retired today and gas is $5. Okay? Well, what happens in 10 years if gas is $50 a gallon? You ain't going to make it. So at that point, Steve Hunt's process of how to solve things is, well, I've got to be able to afford to do that, so I'm really not satisfied. I am totally not knocking what you are wanting, because I want exactly the same thing that you're talking about. I just don't see, technology-wise and how things are working-wise, that there's a possibility, the way we are moving and the way we've been in the last 10 or 20 years, that there's a possibility to reach that point anymore. I wish it was the case, but it's just hard to see that happening down the road, even if we stopped it today. I just don't see that it's possible, because everyone's brain has already been programmed to want more than their neighbor has, or to aspire to be better than their neighbor is. You know, I don't look at my neighbors and think that I'm any better than them or they're any better than me. I don't. We are different people than a lot of the society there is that lives in this world. Thank the Lord. But you still have that mentality in you that says, man, I've been driving this Camry for 50 years. I'm about ready for a new one. You know?
Yeah.
You're going to have that. You can't get that out of your You know, my wife's parents are very simple living people. To me, they are comfortable and happy. But they're buying a new car when they need or want a new car, you know? And so that's my only argument of that whole thing. I mean, your question was great because it sparked this, but we have two different opinions, and they're both right.
I don't think your opinions are different, to be honest with you. I don't think any three of us' opinions are different. I think our context around the way we're trying to frame the way we're trying to articulate it are different. I think intellectually we all think the exact same thing. We're just saying it differently.
Right.
Like I said, I think when we're talking about in the context of materialistic things, cars, garages, all these things, we're all in agreement that 100% that stuff has an end goal. Your house being done, being the carrot, the donut, whatever. Yeah, that's a thing. That's a thing, and it should be accomplished. But intellectually, I don't think it's possible for my brain, your brain, and probably the close group of people that I keep close to me who are very similar.
Yeah.
I don't think intellectually our brains will ever be satisfied. Intellectually.
Yeah.
I don't see it. That's why I said I can call you on bullshit because I don't think Steve's Hunt brain is ever going to be, like I said, intellectually satisfied. It'll be materialistic, absolutely. Monetarily, absolutely. You know, that's all a thing. But I can't say in 50 years when this show is massive and we have every possible freaking thing that money can buy, and I'm hypothetically using the show, but it's a good example.
You still won't be satisfied.
Have every single thing that money can buy. You can't buy anything else. We don't hurt for money. We don't even care. We have FU money. We're upper rich. Okay, money's not even a thing. Something in Steve Hunt's brain's going to be like, I wonder if we change the lighting on that intro, if it'll look different. Or I wonder if, you know.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, I wonder if, and that's not a money thing. That's an intellectual thing. Like, I wonder if we, if we move this ad to the front and then move this ad to the back, if that'll gain more traction with our sponsors or what. You know what I'm saying? That wheel's not going to stop turning. Not until they lay both of y'all's asses 6 feet in the ground. It ain't happening.
And I'm glad you said
happening.
that because that's exactly what I was trying to get at. I think we think a lot alike. And while, yes, monetarily, I honestly think that the three of us could be satisfied at a point.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that's easy to say. Could I be satisfied with $100 million to last me the rest of my life? You daggone Skippy. All three of us can.
Yeah.
But, no? But, it's just what he said out of his mouth, that you're going to want to change something. So, you know, that means that you're not satisfied.
Yeah, when money's not the thing and materialistics are not the thing, they just become avenues to full play what's going on in your brain. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? It doesn't have anything to do with being satisfied or not. It's just, but that was the point of the question was society as a general, I think if intellectually it stopped, we would be so screwed. So screwed. I don't think it's possible. How to make more time in the family? My answer to that is it has to become priority. If that's what you want, then it has to become priority. You have to get rid of the instant gratification and constant stimulation, and you have to make it be the new thing. You have to make it be the thing. In my house, we eat dinner together. A lot of the times, me and Holly don't eat with the kids. I'll cook them food all day, but very rarely will I eat with them, but we all sit right there. And when one kid gets done, which is John Matthew, 100 times out of 100, quicker than Rylan, he don't move until she's done. And if we're all eating, nobody moves until everybody's done. But that's something that was put in me from my parents.
And see,
I
it's
value
the same
that.
at our house.
I value that.
We don't eat in separate rooms. We don't eat in the living room.
Electronics are gone. My phone's not on the table. Holly's phone's not on the table.
Yep.
The kids' tablets, they're not on the table. That shit's gone. Now, that may be the only 10 minutes I get during the day, but, you know, that's normal.
But
the
it's
second that goes away, I don't know that I'll get it back, not without some damn fussing and fighting.
Right.
You know? You let them watch YouTube at breakfast, they're going to expect it at every meal.
Yeah.
They associate food with more tube time or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's right.
It's the constant stimulation. So you have to, and I don't know that parents nowadays or I'm not even going to say parents, but people nowadays, I don't know if they have enough discipline and willpower to be able to do that. Say, I'm not going to do this, something they've been doing for forever. I don't, because there's no consequence. If you don't touch your phone for 2 hours before you go to bed, there's no consequence to that. It's only beneficial, but it doesn't feel the same.
Right.
It's not the same thing.
That's right.
I've had a conversation with my wife. You know, if you just don't look at your phone the last 15 minutes before you go to sleep and see if you sleep any better. Just try it. And there's no consequence if she keeps looking at it. You're not going to die. I mean,
Yeah.
nothing's
that's
going to
right.
happen. I
It's
mean,
an
you're fine.
experiment.
Yeah. And I mean, you'll be surprised, but people just lack so much. They lack all that because there's no actual real consequences. And they don't have any self accountability. So it's society wise and how to get that time back. I think that's a human thing that people are going to have to fix on their own. I don't think there's a societal fix for that.
You know, it's the most honorable part about being addicted to your phone. Like, I'm not speaking personally, but like society. The kids are addicted to phones. People, adults,
We all
everybody.
are. Jesus, we all are.
If you boil it all down, it's actually this crazy drug-like addiction to learning. It's information.
It is
Data.
very funny
Yes.
that you said that, because the moment it was coming out of your mouth, I was thinking, with the exception of like a game that one of my children might play, it is two things that they are getting by being on their phone. That's the same with me, the same with you, and the same with you. It is knowledge about whatever you have a question in your head about, and social interaction. Now, that social interaction where it should be a face-to-face thing, it's not. But there's still social interaction there. I mean, I don't see you every day, but you're very close every day. You know?
Sure. Yeah.
And if I have a question for you, I don't have to wait till I see you.
Right.
It's so easy to say, hey, what do you guys think about this? Or let me show you this, or that kind of thing. So yeah, you're 100% spot on with that. It's not all bad,
It's not. No.
but there
Definitely
is a point to where it would be no different. I want you to think about it like this. Okay, let's say you have a kid. We're going to use a daughter because they're normally the ones that are more apt to this than a son is. Let's say you had a daughter that instead of having her face stuck in her phone all the time and it pissed you off, what if she had a book in front of her face? Wouldn't make you near as mad. What if she's doing the exact same thing?
Right. Yeah. Point of view.
perspective, brother. Yep.
Perspective. That's it.
You know, you said the thing about like having the 80-inch TV because your neighbor's got it. I used to have that, like keeping up with the Joneses. Like, it wasn't bad, but it drove my decisions way more than I'd like to admit. And you know how we said events change.
Sure.
Like, so 2008 happened. Everybody knows if you were old enough to be around, but the economy didn't do good things.
Shit the bed.
Yeah. So I went through the emotions of bills coming in that I didn't have money to pay. And that went on for a little while. And then after you quit paying for a little while, they start calling you. And long story short, I lost the house and I had to file bankruptcy. That was an event that changed.
The way you...
Yeah. So now keeping up with the Joneses is not part of my, and I had to go through an event to get to that. And there's still a little bit of it. Like,
Sure.
yeah.
There is in everybody, but this is a conversation that Kim and I have had more than one time. So I can honestly tell you this, honestly 100%. I am not driven by what other people have. What I am driven by is okay, Matt and I decided to come to your house and watch the Super Bowl this year, and you just got this new 80-inch TV, and I like it. I'm not jealous that you have it, but I like it.
Yeah.
I got the money, so I'm going to buy it. That's not driven by I want it because you have it. It's driven by I want it because I saw it and it's something that sparks my interest. I feel like for me, and probably for you, knowing you like I know you, that's what would happen. You wouldn't necessarily want it because your neighbor has it. You would want it because you saw it at your neighbor's house and you were like, damn, I really like that, you know? Mm-hmm. And that goes right back along what you said. It's all in satisfaction, you know? Are you really satisfied with the 13-inch black and white TV that you had when you were a kid that had the dial on it? Mm-hmm. No.
You too. Y'all remember that?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes. Yeah. Because I always turned it on those channels after Saturday Night Live came on to watch the British comedies that were on TV. They were freaking hilarious. They were better than anything that's on TV now. You know, public TV thing. Yeah. But yeah, that is it. It's not keeping up with the Joneses. Mm-hmm. You said that, but I don't believe that. I don't believe that you looked at your neighbor and you said, well, they got this, I want one. I think, knowing you, that you saw they had something and you liked it enough to want it.
Yeah. That's
not keeping up with the Joneses. That is no different than turning the TV on and seeing an advertisement. Mm-hmm. It is the same shit. Same thing. And I tell Kim that about our kids. You know, she could say, well, they just want that because their friend has it. Well, no, it's pumped into them on social media too. Mm-hmm. So they're not jealous. It's an advertisement.
Yeah. It's trendy.
It's that is exactly
right
it.
Yeah, it's in right now.
That is it.
Yeah.
You know?
You know, your thing you said about retiring and not knowing if it's realistic to, like, in years past, you could save up enough money, and then, you know how when we do, like, rope rescue stuff, there's a safety factor?
Yeah.
15 to 1, right? So, in my view of retiring, I invoke the safety factor part.
So you're building in that extra to account for what?
Cushion.
Yeah. So I did the math on what my fire department retirement will look like. And then I've made decisions to, like, all right, if that's that, then I want to do this over here. And then if this shits the bed, then this will work. So the safety factor, the need, like the desire for a safety factor, is a good thing to have. Like, don't put all your eggs in one basket.
No, it is a good thing to have.
Bird in the hand or two in the bush.
That's right.
I get it. Yeah. I totally understand that.
But for that all to work, if you take out the fact that that gas may be $10 a gallon after you've planned for 5, mm-hmm. the only thing that will make all of that work and fall into place will be discipline. That is it. If you don't have that, it will never work.
Yep.
And there are people that do. I feel like my grandparents had it.
Yeah.
You know? Mm-hmm. But they didn't live in the same time that we live in, and it's warped our brain. And so, summing up to answer your question, you would have to go back to that to stop at that point in time versus stopping now. But that was pretty badass. I enjoyed that.